Morning guys, welcome back to the shed. Sunday morning. I get asked this question quite a lot. We all know what colour our vehicle is to paint. One, we can see the colour, and two, we follow a colour code. So we can go to our mixing bank, mix the colour of the car, not an issue. How do we determine the colour of primer that goes underneath that colour? If you're like me, in the early days of learning painting, I remember painting a little yellow Fiat years ago, a little 128. Fantastic paint job, colour was great, hardly any bits or trash in it, the job was beautiful. Took it out into the daylight, and everywhere that I'd done a priming area, little touch-ins on whatever defects I had in the car prior to prepping, virtually every one of them I could see a shadowing effect around where the repair was. That's how I learnt that you do need the right coloured primer under your paint. A lot of colours, if you've got a decent mixing bank, it will classify this colour as a G shade or a ground coat. So you have in your mixing formula, it will tell you this is the formula for your paint and this must be sprayed over this G coat. And you have a range of G coats, different colours, different grey, different spectrum grey colours that go underneath the paint. So if we don't have a fancy mixing bank, like me at home here, I've got a nice Chromax mixing scheme that I love to death. I don't have any chips for G shades, so there's a little tip that I've learnt myself. I don't any longer go and get the nearest tin of, okay, nice quality 2K primer, grey. Everybody thinks the first line of defence is grey primer. What I do now is I buy 2 tins of primer, one black, one white, and obviously every combination of different mixes of this, different ratios, will give me the whole spectrum of priming colours, right from pure white to dark black. If you have a white car, obviously a white primer is great underneath it. You wouldn't put a dark colour primer because it would take too many coats to cover. And likewise, if you've got a black car, black primer, it's not a problem. So how do we determine all the other colours, the reds, the blues, the greens? How do we determine what colour primer to put underneath them so that we don't have to put 15 coats of paint on to get coverage? You've either got to get it back out into the daylight or put a sun gun on it or whatever, just to find out, have you covered the primer? This is a little trick that I've used for, I don't know, 20 years plus, I suppose, really. When I first got into photography, photography for me was black and white. I love black and white photography. I could develop my own pictures, develop my own slides. It wasn't expensive for chemicals and papers. It was a simple photography. So with that in mind, and I was told this at one of the painting courses that I went to, take a picture of the colour that you're going to paint. So say for instance you're going to put a new wing or fender on a car, door is perfect as it is. Go and take a picture of that door in black and white. That will give you a representation of your G shade. And here I've printed off an example. This was quite hard to find actually, but I wanted to use this because it's the easiest sort of explanation of what I'm trying to say. This is a black and white picture, I hope you can all see it a bit closer, of a red double-decker bus. But as you can see in black and white, this colour is nowhere near red. You can see the mudguards on the bus, which are black, which still are black, that's a true colour. You can see the white in the logo, obviously still white. But this red is actually quite a dark grey and this is the colour that you would match as your ground coat. So you would mix these two until it represents this colour grey. If you classify this grey as your colour chip for your ground coat, this is the grey that you would put on the car to get great coverage for that red bus. Obviously you can see in this picture there's all sorts of other colours in the picture, but they're all represented by a different tone of grey, and this is what I like to use. So it's a simple thing. If you have a mobile phone, if you can set it to monocolour, if you have a little digital camera, go and look at the car, take it in daylight, because that's obviously going to be useful as well. Take it out in the daylight, take a picture of it, look at that colour, use that as your colour chip for mixing your primers. The only thing I will say, and obviously this is a guideline, this is if you don't have the facility of G-shade on your mixing bank. If you do, just use it as it says. Don't use my formula, my tip to say that it will sort of override the proper grey scale that you've got on your mixing bank. But the only thing I would say, when you're mixing these two colours together, always put the white in first and darken it with the black. I've unfortunately a couple of times gone into autopilot, put the black in first, try to make it lighter, and you use so much white to darken, to lighten the black. You just, lots of waste. So you start off by putting your white paint in first, darken it a little bit with the black, stir it, see if it matches your grey scale. Keep going like that, a little bit more black, a little bit more black, a little bit more black, until you actually reach on the end of your mixing stick. Hold it up to your picture, say, yeah, that's a similar grey to that. And that's worked for me. As I say, my big learning curve was this little yellow Fiat, which was probably 35, 38 years ago. It was an awful yellow, a really horrible buttercup yellow. I didn't use grayscale, I used just some ordinary grey primer, whatever it was at that time. Took it out into the sunlight, corners of the doors, little patches on the wings, little bits around the headlights where I just touched in with some primer. I didn't primer the vehicle all over, otherwise it would have been one shade underneath the colour all over, but because I'd only blown in little areas, it looked like a bit of a Dalmatian. There was odd patches and splatches all over the place. It was awful. But that's my tip. That's my tip for priming. Black and white picture. Use that as a colour chip and see how you get on. I think you'll find that it works for most of you out there. People that's probably buying in their paint from a paint factors. You ring them up in the morning, get them to deliver the paint for the afternoon, which is fantastic. You don't have to have a mixing scheme, but you still need to know what type of primer or what colour of primer to put on underneath that colour. So I hope that was helpful. I hope you like my little demo of a red bus. I thought that's obvious. Everybody has it in their mind what colour a red double-decker bus looks like, and you can see in black and white what colour of grey it is. And I hope that was my easiest option to try and show you what's going on. It's only a quick one this morning, guys. I've got lots of jobs on. I'll hopefully be back, because it's bank holiday weekend. Hopefully be back up maybe later on today, maybe tomorrow, and I'll try and do another couple of little videos. But try that, see how you get on, and see if I'm right. Speak to you again shortly. Cheers now.